it's all about meeting. You know what? Like you here, you're the helper as the wife. You're the helper. The guy is the husband is the head of the home. So, am I helping him? Am I helping him reach, what we came together to do, like build, whether it's, like generational wealth, whether it is like building, whatever that we came together, whatever the goal was. Am I helping him, or I'm more like a side? I'm on the...
To another episode.
Welcome to another episode of the Mendable Hustler podcast. It's your boy G, your host, and my co-host, Cole. We have a very, very, very special guest with us today. The woman that makes me smile. The woman that a major key part of my journey, the man that I become today, just Cindy. So, Cindy, can you please introduce yourself to those who don't know you?
My name is just Cindy. I'm his wife, and I am Haitian. I was born in Haiti. I'm a mother of a beautiful 2-year-old girl. Cardiologist, technologist, and I'm happy to be here to share some of my wisdom and experiences.
I'm just really happy for you to be here. You were amazing person, of course, my wife. And your story and your journey is very interesting, and I just felt that you were the right person to be in this podcast, and also to let the people who support the podcast and the people who know who I am that don't really know your story, and you are part of a major key part of my journey, of course, and I just felt like. And I was waiting for the right time to be in the podcast, and then I feel this is the right time.
Yeah, so just Cindy, whichever one you want to be preferred by. We're delighted to have you on the podcast, and we just wanted to give the audience a better perspective of Jelson.
Yeah.
Obviously, he is who he is today, not just because of the hard work that he put into, but the person that he is with it,
right.
He's with. And so we're very happy to get to know you a little better and get to see why Jelson is the man he is today.
Yes. Yeah. So before we go ahead and move forward, I kind of I want you to, because we have a topic to discuss today, but I really want you to share some of your background. And just your transition from coming from Haiti to United States, and then to United States, and then end up here in Canada.
Okay, so like I said earlier, I was born in Haiti. I spent most of my childhood in Haiti, in school, grew up with a lot of friends, with my family, cousins. I'm my mother's only child. I have a sister on my dad's side. We were not raised together. We have different mother. But growing up in Haiti was obviously every child's dream, especially in Haiti. The way that we did things, so many things that we enjoyed. I left Haiti when I was turning 12 and I moved to the States. specifically in North Carolina. I spent about 4-5 years in North Carolina, and then I moved to Canada when I was 16 years old. So that part was just really hard it was a hard pill to swallow, just because of like I was in my teenage years, and that's when I was starting to experience a lot of things and having friends and things like that. But I think that it wasn't an easy transition for me, and it took a little while for me to get over the whole moving part. But from there, like from Haiti to North Carolina to Canada, it was just part of my upbringing as a teenager, as an immigrant.
So,
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's like a running theme that we normally have with the recent number of guests that we had. Normally, whenever they're describing their backgrounds and their upbringing, it seems like it's a pretty tough way of growing up because of all the struggles that they went through.
Yeah.
But normally, what they normally tell us is, out of that struggle, they basically learned a lot and made them a very strong individual, made them very disciplined. And obviously, the struggle that you went through did play a part in shaping you who you are today. And obviously, all the moves wasn't really beneficial towards your development of socialization. So can you describe how you improve your socialization after you sort of found a home?
Yes. So it was, for me, I'm always shy till now. I'm a shy person, but with them moving from like my home country to a country where I had to start all over again with friends, with even like getting to know my family, like my sister and my dad, like living with my dad as well. So that part there was just like, it was awkward. I'm not an open person. I'm not really outgoing. So for me to like leave the home where I grew up, where I was born, where I had all my friends, and then I had to move somewhere where I have to start all over again, it was just super hard to make friends. And I'm not the kind of person I wasn't the kind of person to like just walk up to somebody and be like, hi, my name is so and so. It was more like waiting for people to come to me and say, oh, hi, what's your name, and things like that. And then there was also a language barrier. So for me, it was just like, okay, well, like if anyone comes to me and talk to me, then I guess I'll talk to them. And it went like this for years. And I think I found my stepping ground when I moved to Canada. And I'm not sure if it was like the years that I lived in the state that helped, or when I moved and I realized that, you know what, I've done this before, I've gone through it before, and this isn't new to me. So now I know like, okay, what to do in that situation. I know that if I want to have friends and it seems like this is gonna be my permanent home, then I need to make friends. I need to be social. I need to open up a little bit. So I think that's what I had in mind. That's what helped me become a little bit more open to people and a bit more friendly. And I think that's what.
I just wanted to touch on a little bit more on the your moving. Obviously, it does play the factor in terms of like slowing down your socialization skills, because you don't really ever get to know people because you're constantly moving. But in like as a positive out of this moving around too much, we sort of tend to be very flexible, right? We tend to sort of adapt to our environment. So I just wanted to say that, because it's not just the negatives in terms of like affecting your socialization skills, but it's also the positive of increasing your adaptability, your flexibility, and always be ready on the move, I guess.
Yeah, because looking back, you're moving to two different places, like whole different world, you know, like whole different culture. Two, you know, like States, then Canada, you know what I mean? So, but one of the things, just I wanted to go back a little bit, just kind of like ask, how did you get the opportunity to leave Haiti? Because I know there's so much people that wish to have the opportunity to go to another country, of course, to a more developed country, you know. So, like, how did you, if you're comfortable sharing, like, how did you get the opportunity to leave Haiti to the United States?
So that's a good question. I've never really spoke about that. Not like my family has spoken about it, but my stepmother was with my dad at that time. So
your dad was in the States?
My dad was living in the States, so I was in Haiti.
Okay.
And my dad and my stepmom sponsored me to come to the States. So that's how I ended up living. I mean, it took a while for the process, the immigration process, to be completed. If I recall, like.
So your stepmother sponsored you?
My stepmom sponsored me.
Okay, cool. And then your dad came to Canada, the United States.
Like 2 years later, my dad came to Canada.
Who bring you to Canada.
Right.
Okay.
That's correct.
That's good. So now moving forward, you get here in Canada, of course. You already knew the language, English. Of course, you learned that a little bit, a lot of it in the States. Now coming here, a whole new culture, new country, no friends. Well, how was the transition now? Because I know you were so comfortable in the States.
Right.
Now moving to Canada is like, oh my God.
It was different. Because in the States, if I compare like Canada and the States, there's a big difference. Like if I recall, like the school that I went to in the States, people were very friendly. Like talking about like the African Americans, the Caucasians, like Latinos, like Pakistani. We had all kinds. It was like a very diverse school, and we had so many cultures, and they were very friendly. Like some of them would come because they knew who my sister was.
Oh, so your sister was the popular one.
My sister was the popular one. So every time we would go to school, she would say, "Oh, this is my little sister. This is my little sister." So people knew me as her.
Did you kind of like feel a little bit uncomfortable?
I didn't feel uncomfortable, but I was more like, oh, like they know me, so I guess if ever I get lost and I can't find my classes and things like that, and there was always someone, oh, that's Marie's little sister, you know, and I didn't speak English, so they would come and take my timetable, my schedule, and they would look at it, and they would say, oh, like, let me walk you to your class. So they were very friendly. But when I moved to Canada, even though I knew how to speak English, people weren't as receiving. They weren't as welcoming. If anything, I feel like they were more like they were
kind of
observing.
like, oh, look at that girl from the States.
Yes, so they're like, oh, she's
they
from
they
where?
know you knew. Did they see?
They
that?
knew they knew I was new, so they were curious to who is this girl, like where is she from, and they will, instead of coming to me and asking me, they were just talking and giving side eyes and things like that. It was really hard because I want to have friends, but I found like there was no one that was willing to come and say, and I would talk to people if I'm looking for my
of course
classes.
You were shy at that time too, right? It was hard for you to kind of approach and introduce yourself too.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I kind of have like something similar to that because when I was in middle school, I was one grade ahead of my little brother, and when my brother came to my school, he hated that because he was more reserved, and the fact that I was kind of popular in the school. And he just hated that because last name, of course, right? He'd be like, people come to him, yo, are you G's brother? You G's brother? G's brother? You G Money's brother? He just hated that. The fact that everybody knew him because he didn't want the spotlight to be on him, but because people knew that he's my little brother, he hated that. Yeah, it's hard to get into.
Would you say that people have preconceived notions of you? The fact that you came from the States, so they really tried to get to know you?
Yes, I think so too.
Would you say that?
I think so, but I also think that at that time when I moved here, I feel like there was such a thing about people coming from the States. Like, it was such a big deal. For me, it wasn't. I'm like, I just moved from the States, and like, it's nothing.
Yeah.
But I came here in 2009, so that year, I don't know, for some reason, everybody was like, oh my gosh, she's from the States. Oh,
Yeah.
But like, I feel like I was like the
head.
Like
Because
the popular girl.
Yeah, because here in Canada we look up to United States. Because like if you like when it comes to entertainment, and most of the entertainment is coming from the States, right? So when we look people who are from the States, automatically we thinking they have to be cool. Right? So kind of like people brag about it, yo, I'm not from here, I'm from the States. But you leave here, no, because the fact they came from the States, it's like, no, I'm from the States. Bro, okay, you from the States doesn't mean you're more than anybody else. But you know, it's kind of like that thing. I don't know if it got into your head when you came here. You kind of like walking a little different, just because you came from the States.
No, I don't think anything changed about me. If anything, I would correct them. I would say I'm from Haiti. I was living in the States.
Okay.
Because a lot of people, what I noticed people were doing at that time, they would say, actually, they would lie and say, I'm from the States. Like, I'm from Boston. I'm from Chicago. Like, something like that. But me, I'm like, I used to live in North Carolina, but I'm Haitian. Like, I was born in Haiti. So for me, it didn't really do anything, because when I open my mouth and speak, you can hear my accent. So there's no need for me to front about it.
Right. I asked this question before to one of our previous guests. It was regarding the school system itself. Right. The school system itself is not very beneficial to a lot of people, because most people, the way that the school evaluates their skills isn't exactly, it doesn't exactly apply to everyone, right? So the question is, can you like describe or list an experience of a friend or yourself in terms of a skill that you developed that you couldn't necessarily show in class or show in school with the way they evaluate things, but you developed outside of school?
Like here in Canada or?
Here in Canada.
I can't think of anything.
Because this question goes to you were within the school system. It's quite restrictive.
Right.
You're not. It doesn't really give you the ability to be as creative to your fullest potential. Right. But outside of school, people tend to see themselves in their full capabilities by experimenting with different things that they're never able at school.
Right.
So when they go outside of school, they're able to fully explore. So I'm just asking, what skills did you notice that you were able to do outside of school?
I would say talking with people, because in school, I'm like, if you see me in a class, I'm that one student who's afraid of like lifting their hands, but I know the answer, so I would just like, in my head, I'm like, this is the answer, as if I'm saying it out loud, but it doesn't come out, because I felt, whenever I was in class, I felt like, if I open my mouth and say something, but what if it comes out wrong, or what if nobody can understand what I'm saying? So I used to not say anything, or like speaking out loud. Even like if the teacher or the instructor would be, like if anybody wants to give the answer or come up to the board and like write down or whatever, solve that problem, I would know what to do. But for me to take that step and like either speak, my confidence was just not. But outside, I was a different person. Like I was able to speak to my friends, to like people. Like
the people you were comfortable.
I was comfortable around them. So I think that's the skill that I would say that I wasn't able to do like in classes or like even with group projects. It was the same thing, because I'm working with people that, yes, I see them every day in class, but we're not really friends. So for me, they're like strangers. We're classmates, and it will have the same impact on me. But when I'm outside, it's a whole different thing. When I'm hanging out with like my friends, or we go somewhere and things like that. If I'm meaning, we go to a friend house or a gathering and I'm meeting people for the first time. But because of the environment, because of the place that we're at or the atmosphere, I sort of come out of my shelf, I would say.
So if you don't mind me summarizing what you just said, so you initially you had a fear of criticism, right? And you weren't able to fully challenge that fear in school because it only increased the pressure.
Yes.
But outside of school, you're sort of able to develop that skill to the point that when you went out of school, you completed that challenge and you overcame your fear of criticism.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think with that, it takes time, right? It takes time because for some people, they realize it right away and they're able to fix it. For some people, they have to go through kind of like some experiences that they realize that in order for them to kind of like do what they love or achieve whatever the visions that they have, they kind of have to face the whatever that they suffer from. Yeah. So now moving forward, let's say you graduated from high school. How was that like? Graduating from high school, and what was the plan after high school?
When I moved here, I was in grade 12. I completed my grade 11 in the States, so I was gonna go to grade 12, but I had to come here. So I finished my high school here and graduated at Gloucester High School. My plan was like, even from the States, my plan was to go to university and study nursing, and then from there go to med school and things like that. So that was always my plan, and I was working towards writing SATs. In the States, they have this exam for scholarship for universities. So every year from grade 9 to grade 11 or grade 12, you will do the practice SAT, and then I think once you're ready to take the SAT exam, you challenge it, and then if you have, it's based on GPA and grades, right? Like you need a higher grade for whatever university to take you. So I was focusing on that when I was in the States. So when I had to move here and I graduated from high school, I was told that because of the plan that I had, I was told that I would have to spend another year in high school. And for me, it was a big no-no because I said, listen, I'm not graduating. I'm not staying behind for another year, because in my head, I'm thinking like, does that make me look dumb or something? Like I was in class with graduating and I'm not graduating. So because I was still in touch with some of my friends in the States, for me, I just like, no, this is a defeat. Like I would not.
It's funny you say that. I wanted to go back for another year because as a basketball player, when you're playing for high school, it's the best thing, you know what I mean? Like, because I remember like when the basketball season's over, it's boring because there's nothing else to do. Right. You literally finish school and you go home. But when during basketball season, you have practices. Sometimes you have games. Sometimes you get to leave class early because you have a game away. You know what I mean? So, and then after when you graduate, you're like, you're leaving everything. The basketball team and some of your teammates that graduating the next year, the following year. And you just wish that you could go back and play for another year, but it doesn't work like that. Once you're done, you're done. Yeah, I kind of like wanted to like go back low key, do another year because it's just fun, you know.
For me, it was different because I graduated at 17, so technically, I could have stayed behind and wait until I'm 18 and do an extra year, but I said no, and because I didn't stay, the credit that I needed to go to nursing, I didn't have that credit, so I had to do something else. And then when I applied for another program to see if I can make up those credits so I can go to apply for nursing the next year, it was already full. Like the program was full, they weren't taking any more people. So I I figured, like, I went on the internet, and then I started looking at other options because I refused to stay home. I said, I'm not spending 1 year doing nothing. And it was really like stressing me out because everybody was doing something with their life. And I remember on my graduation day, there were a lot of students when they were calling them out to give them their diploma, and they were calling, like so-and-so is going to Carleton University.
And some of them got honor, of course.
Exactly. Yeah. So for me, when they call my name, I'm like, there's nothing. So I just kind of like walk up there and just grab my diploma with shame. And
no, that's
came
not
back
shame.
down.
You can't really say
And
that. Because I remember I went to my brother's graduation, right? And they're saying, I think he got a honor.
He was honor roll.
Yeah, and it's like, man, what if it was me? I was just there in that moment. What if it was me? And my mom was right there. She's so proud. What if it's me after the G, Jelson, Ferreira, honor roll, and science, engineering, or whatever. That would just make but like, I think that they'd be like, no, our journey is different. Our journey is different. So you can't really say that because you don't know what God has in store for you. You know what I mean? So yes. Now, so I wanted to kind of like, before I move forward, is there any questions that you want to? Yeah. So like I was saying, I told her, you have any more questions before we move forward?
Yeah, I have a question. I don't think you sort of skimmed through it, but a lot of people have struggle a lot through deciding what it is that they want to do. Not just deciding whether they want to go to college, university, but in terms of what they want to do with their careers and stuff like that. It's like a big pressure. Even for those that decide that they want to go into this and do that, later on they regret that decision because it wasn't exactly what it is they wanted to do. It's only because they're through going through those experiences, they're able to get a better idea of who they are, and they come to find out that doesn't really apply. So how was your process in deciding that you wanted to go into nursing right after high school?
That's something that I remember since I was little. I wanted to be a nurse because in Haiti, you can only become 3 things in Haiti as parents. Like for parent standards, most Haitian parents, they have like this vision where like they see their kids either become a doctor, a lawyer, or a nurse. Anything else outside of that is like nothing for them. So for me, my mom never spoke to me about that, or neither my dad. But it's just that I just felt since I was young, I want to be a nurse. So even when I would play with my friends, I was always playing nurse. I was always seeing myself as a nurse, giving care and things like that. So when I moved to the States, I know for sure that's what I'm gonna be. With the possibility and being in a bigger country and like where things are so much better, your life is better, education-wise, there's more opportunities. Yeah. So I know for sure like I'm gonna get to where I want it to be. But the move happened so unexpectedly that I still had in my mind that it's possible until when I moved here and I was told that the credits that I had from the States were not really equivalent to what I needed to graduate, and that they were shortening my credits and I needed to make up for it. So then I knew, okay.
So you did summer school to try to make up for those credits? I
went to summer school. I did 1 year, one summer school with one of my friends actually, and I think there were 2 classes that I needed to speed up, so because I didn't want to stay. Yeah. But I still was lacking. I was still lacking the credit I needed to get into nursing because I never took chemistry in the States. I never took.
You think that messed it up because of the moving?
I think the moving, yes. But I still had time to, if I really wanted to do it, I still had time to do adult high school, online school, and take those courses. Yeah. But instead, I decided to go and take that program, cardiology technologies, for that year because I said I'm not staying home. So I put the nursing on hold so that I can get my diploma from that program, which was a 2-year program, just under 2 years. And I finished it. I still had in my mind the plan to go back to school. And that year when I graduated from that college, I reapplied at Algonquin and I got into a program, General Health and Science, pre-nursing. So that program basically takes you, like they give you all the requirements that you need to get into nursing. But you need to pass the first semester with a high mark because there are so many, you're competing against high school students, mature students who are like 18 and over.
Yeah.
So just you're competing against so many people, so they want you to have like a 80 something and above. For me, I don't know if I missed that, but I was having a hard time with chemistry. Wasn't really doing well, and I think it just kept dropping. My grade kept dropping. And when I actually applied for nursing, I did get in because of my chemistry.
The second part to that question, focus on your parents. Ours is the culture in Haiti. In terms of like the small selection, in terms of the careers that young individuals will get into, would you say that part of the reason that they have this small section of careers that for their kids to choose from is because of the lack of opportunities?
I believe so.
So they want their families to get into something like doctors, lawyers,
Yes.
and that kind of thing to
Yes.
change their family wealth and stuff like that.
Yes, I think that's a big part of it. And also, like, I mean, now things have changed. It's not the same anymore. There are a lot of people who are doing different things other than lawyer, other than nursing and doctors. But I think at that time they were looking more like job-wise. If I do nursing, I have a higher chance of getting a job right after. Or like if I become a doctor, I can work at a hospital and the money might not be as great, but at least I'm gonna be getting paid. Or if it's a lawyer, I'm gonna have a job somehow. But if you take something else, it's like, like I remember when I was struggling to figure out what program I wanted to go into right after high school, I applied for paralegal. And my dad received the package because they sent me the congratulation that I was in the program. And my dad looked at that time. He used to open my mail.
That's like a black brand kind of thing.
He opened it and then he saw it and he came to me. He said, "What is this? What do you mean paralegal? What is that?" He's like, "No, you're not taking paralegal." And I'm like, "Dad, like it's me who's gonna take that program." And I really didn't do research. I just didn't want to stay home. So I was applying for just anything. I applied for the hairstyle program. I applied for the paralegal program. I applied for law clerk. I hate law. I don't
to cut
like
you
it.
off, but so you didn't really had a clear vision what you really want to do. Or just because it was just so hard for you to get into nursing, instead of focusing on that, how to let me find my ways, how to just go into nursing. You just let me just stay busy and do other stuff.
I wouldn't say I didn't have a clear vision. I did have a vision.
No, you did have a vision, but you didn't want to just focus on that.
It wasn't working out, so I'm like, I need to do something else. That's how I
So you wanted to take the risk on try and do something else.
Right. But at the same time, I know if I take something that I'm not really passionate about, I'm gonna hate myself for it. So when I applied for the paralegal, in the back of my mind, I said I'm gonna hate it.
Okay.
So when my dad said you're not taking it, I didn't fight him again. I didn't argue with him. I just let it be. He said, "Why don't you just stay and find?" Because at that time I wasn't working too, so I had no job. I'm just home. So he said, "Why don't you work on your resume and start handing out resume to places and find a job? Maybe that will help you." So that's what I did. But then I got into the program, cardiology program.
Yeah.
You had to be 18 years old to get into that program. So because I was 17, they were kind of like, yeah, maybe you should try again next year. But the lady was like, you know what, you're turning 18 in a couple months. Why don't you just, it's okay, we'll enroll you.
Okay, cool. Interesting. That's cool.
Yeah. So with that being covered, I think we covered enough information about your background, and I think.
No, I have one more question before you go forward. Just covering your background, and one thing that this podcast is about, like motivation, of course, and inspiring those who are still trying to find their identity. So, what is one advice that you can give to people of the thing that you struggled during high school? Of course, criticism.
Yeah, criticism was one that you mentioned.
Yeah. So like one of the things that you kind of like struggle a little bit. What's one advice that you can give to somebody that's listening to that probably going through the same things that you can share that can help them?
If there's one thing I have to say, it's let your voice be heard, because a lot of time when I used to like withheld myself from speaking, when I get home and I was standing in front of the mirror, I'm like, I'm actually saying these things, and I said, why didn't I go and why didn't I open my mouth and say that? So it's like later when you'll come back and you regret not speaking up or anything. So my advice is just, just speak whatever that comes, that you have in your heart, or anything that you feel at the moment. If it's the right time, as long as it's not anything that's gonna I don't know if I should put it like that, but as long as it's not anything that's gonna break someone, or you speak up, you let your voice be heard, because you don't know who's listening, who's waiting to hear whatever that you have to say, and maybe they're going through the same thing. So that's one of my mistakes that I made, and I felt like I should have spoken when I needed to. I should have opened up more than I did, and I think I missed out on a lot of opportunities that way. So that's one of the things. That's great.
Yeah, something relatable that I can add into that is, for those that do feel criticism, there's this quote, I don't remember exactly, so I'm paraphrasing. It was about that fear is the thought of predicting the future. Right? And if you're constantly predicting the future, but yet you're never acting upon to do anything to change, then you're normally just being a bypasser, you're being a spectator. Nothing that's ever going to come out of you just being a spectator. So eventually you're going to have to act and do something. So yeah.
That's good, man. That's good. You said it all, man. That's it. So let's move forward.
Yeah, so with enough of your background covered, I think it's time that we jump into your marriage with Jelston.
Interesting.
Before I ask my first question, I'm going to jump into my first question before we jump into it. Right, so in today's time, marriage is a very controversial topic because a lot of people are starting to see a lot of marriages breaking apart. So they're being very cautious and very selective with the kind of people that they engage in relationships with. So what kind of advice would you give to young individuals thinking about marriage at a young age? Because you guys got married at a young age. What age did you guys get married?
I think I was.
No, you said what age we got married?
I think I was 24, but I was turning 25 that December. He was already 25. So I wouldn't say that's young. That's too young.
That's young. The average married couple, that is young.
Not too young.
Not too young. I think that's a normal age. I'll say normal age, but for a lot of people, like especially for me, a lot of comments that I got, like I was too young, and that you should wait and stuff like that. It's But a lot of people, those people that were saying that didn't know how long I was already in a relationship, right? So
I think for me, I would say it was a dream come true because I actually, since I was little, I said I have to be married by 25.
yeah,
So for me, it did come true, and it actually happened before I turned 25. So I saw it
24.
as a milestone.
Well, you were 24. You were 24. Let's just say because your birthday is December 31st. You got married May 20. So technically, you were 24. You wasn't really born yet. So technically, you're 24. I was 25.
I never said I was 25. I said I was 24.
You say you always dreamed that.
No, I said
you
I
get married at
always say
25.
I'm gonna be married by 25. And
Okay.
it happened a couple months earlier, but
It happened.
that's bonus.
Okay, cool. Okay, let's move forward.
So the next question. So marriage is a big step. It's a long-term commitment because you're obviously dedicating each other's life to the very end.
Yeah.
Right. So knowing that, when did you guys think like it was the right time to get married?
After the engagement.
Well,
No.
whenever there's an engagement is because you're committing to getting married.
Oh,
Is that what
no,
you're
okay,
saying?
okay. I'll let you answer that question first.
I just want to go back a bit because I feel like we didn't really answer your first question.
Yeah.
The advice
The advice.
for those in doubt.
Exactly. So for me personally, I mean, we've only been married for 4 years now, together for 7.
Congratulations! I saw
Thank
that
you. We
had
just
your year's
celebrated
anniversary.
our
Couple of
wedding
days
anniversary.
Yeah.
But one thing for sure that I would advise young people, and especially those who are thinking about it, and or even those who are not there yet, but someday wishing that they're, hoping that it will happen to them, is just to take your time, like get to know yourself first, because I feel like I lived with my parents before marriage, and there are a lot of things that was getting done for me, and because I was always, I'm not sure if it's because I'm my mom's only child or my sister's not here, so it was always like I'm like that. The focus was always on me, and I think I was spoiled.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I feel like there are a lot of time that I didn't get to know about myself, and I didn't really explore, and I wish I had done that. So my advice is just take your time. Don't just rush into it. Take your time. Get to know yourself first, and before jumping into it.
Yeah. That's great, because my advice would be kind of similar, but it's like I remember thinking that when we move in, it's gonna be so much fun. Oh my gosh, we get to see each other every day. We're gonna have so much privacy, just our two. It's gonna be so much fun. But it was actually the opposite, because we had more fun before we started living together. Because you thinking that you already know the person, like totally the whole person. You don't really know that person yet, because when you move in together, you get to see the other side that you didn't know about her. You know what I mean? Because when she steps out of the house to go see you or to hang out with you, she's trying to be the best version of herself. She's not trying to show you the other side that you don't know, her bad habits that she have. What does she do when she wake up? Does she like to sleep? Is she in a good mood in the morning? Some of the things that you might not know just yet, you're only gonna find out once you move together. You know what I mean? So it's really good to know, to get to like ask questions that you don't ask her when you guys, just to get to see what kind of person she really is behind closed doors. You know what I mean? Because for you to make that decision, getting married to somebody or proposing to somebody to be your fiance, go ahead and to making plans to marry that person, it's a big commitment. It's a big decision, because it's a decision that you don't want to look back and start scratching your head and be like, I wish I made the right decision. I hope I made the right decision, because this is not the person who I met. This is not the person I fell in love with. Yeah, because you're gonna have moments like that. But with us, it was kind of different because I remember when her parents would go on vacation, I'll kind of like go into her house and spend like a weekend. Depends how much time their parents would stay away. So I kind of like got to see a little bit of it, you know, her ways at home. You know what I mean? But of course, she's gonna be on her best behavior. You're not gonna see it. She's not gonna let you see it. You know what I mean? She'll do the best. She wanna really, like, you know, show you that she's a good girl. You know, I remember sometimes, you know, we staying together while our parents on vacation, and she'll make my lunch for work and ready to go before I leave. She'll be awake, you know, waiting for me to leave. You know, in my head, he's like, yo, that's the one. That's the one. You know what I mean? Like, cause she's like, yo, I never had nobody doing that for me. So it's just getting to know a person like inside out. To be honest, that's the one advice I can give to people, because once you know the person really well, it's easier for you to kind of like adjust, especially when you guys move in together.
Right. The second part of the question.
And I think the second part is that
when was the moment when you thought it was the right time to get married?
To get married. So I think for me, it was one of the things that I said from.
That's easy for me, I can say. When can I go on first?
I'm talking.
Okay, go ahead.
When I introduced him to my dad, like just before I brought him over to meet my dad, and I told him, listen, like, I'm not here to play. Like, it's, if you come to play, then please, here's the door, like, you know, exit yourself. But I told him from the get-go, I was not gonna be playing around. I'm not here to play.
No, let me just say what you said. You said we can make it official until you meet my dad, my parents.
Yes, but
that's
when you
paraphrasing.
started talking to me, what did I tell you?
Yeah, you said we can make it official until you meet my parents.
I told you, listen, I'm not here to play.
Yeah, you were looking for something serious.
I
of
wanted
course.
something serious.
Yeah.
I didn't want something casual, what you guys call it back in the day, whatever that was. But I didn't want any of that. I said I wanted something serious, and that we can't make anything official because I had a curfew. So for me to go on dates with you,
What was that, like 11 o'clock? 10 o'clock?
No, it was like 9 o'clock. So for me to go on dates with you,
I remember going on dates, man. It was
I always
annoying.
tell
Dad's
you.
always calling. 9 o'clock, you see the dad is calling.
I always tell you, like, I don't want to lie to my dad. I don't want to lie. So we can't make it official until you meet my dad. And when you came and like met my dad and everything, you know, that year we were just dating, you know, boyfriend and girlfriend. I didn't really think anything about it. It was more like I have a boyfriend type of thing. But I think it came to mind when we were in our like second year together. That's when I think we started talking about it. He would ask questions, you know, and I'll ask him as well, like, you know, how many kids do you want? Like, we would talk a lot about marriage and stuff like that. But I knew from the back of my mind that he was going there. I knew it just because he doesn't know how to keep a secret.
Yeah, I'm a very open person, you know. I just speak my mind most of the times. And with her, I think answering the question, when did I know? Because when we started dating, everything was just new for me because my other past relationships, it was kind of like the usual, you know, just like the usual normal. With her, it was just everything was different. Like, for example, like the first date, she invited me to her church. It was a Valentine's Day. Normally, Valentine's Day, before my past relationships, we'll go on dates. She'll come over, or I'll come over to her place, we'll hang out and stuff like that. But with her, it was just different. Everything was different. And at that time, it was a time when I was trying to really turn my life around. And I was trying to, I was on my self-development journey, you know, like trying to figure her out because I was stuck. So when when I started talking to her, we made it official, of course. She was so ahead of herself. She knew what she wanted in life, and I was trying to figure out for myself. And as the time going on, and I was finding out things about myself that I didn't know, and I started learning so much things about myself with her. And I just knew that with her, I was gonna keep just growing, and to be the man that I became today. So there was not any other decision when I started having visions that things that we could do, you know what I mean? And I never looked back. It was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life.
Focusing on the aspect of longevity, obviously I want to congratulate you two again on the 4 years of marriage.
Yes.
Happy anniversary. And you did state that obviously earlier when you're dating, when you two first start dating, you're putting on the best impression of yourself.
Yeah.
Well, that wears off over time because you come to know this person to their full degree, right?
Yeah.
So in marriage, a lot of marriage over time tend to break down because of the novelty. Novelty is basically the newness and the freshness of that person. But over time, because you come to know them so well, there's every little things about them that just annoys you, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of marriages tends to break down because that person no longer excites them, that person no longer makes them laugh, because everything about them is so predictable, right? So how have you maintained your relationship over the past 4 years and still being happy with each other?
So answer that question for me.
Both of you can answer.
So I think for me, I could just speak. I'm very comfortable, just because I remember when we moved in right after the marriage, we moved in to an apartment, and of course you carry your old habits into your new place, right? Regardless who you're living with, that's something that you do in the regular autopilot. So I remember when I shower, my towel I'll just leave in the bed because I always leave by myself at my mom's house. So after the shower, I just leave the towel in the bed. That annoyed her a lot. So I remember coming home, I know I have to hear her that. And saying to her, those things about her that I didn't like, you know what I mean? But those are the things that you learn into the marriage. You don't learn before the marriage, because you're only gonna learn once you move in together with that person. There's people who already live together before marriage. That's a good thing too. But with her dad said, you're not living here until you marry. You know what I mean? And we followed that and we did that. So it was a very it was a big challenge that we had to kind of get to correct our bad habits, for us to impress or to be comfortable, follow, respect each other's boundaries. You know what I mean? Because if you want me to do that, then you do that for me, right? So it was challenge in it before, because if it's always fun in the beginning, you can't really be mad at a person because you're so in love, and it's new, right? But as time goes on, like you said, it's everything is so predictable. So you kind of have to change your ways and adjust, right? And we did that. We know we had no choice, right? So
I think for me, it's always when you first get married, you're going through the honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
And the honeymoon phase, you go to your honeymoon. It can last, for some people it lasts couple months, for some it's weeks, for some it's a year, the full year and stuff like that. But I think for us it probably lasted the summer, and then fall comes and it's
because we took a whole month off after the wedding, so it was the whole month. I remember I gained so much weight because it was just so much fun, man. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I think it's at that moment, whatever the person does, you don't really, because you're still in the honeymoon phase. So your mind is still you're still over the moon. You're still on cloud 9.
Yeah.
You love each other and things like that. But I think overall things changes, right? Like when you face different things in life, it sort of have an impact on you. Or sometimes if you don't be careful, like it might even impact your marriage. It all depends on whatever it is. It could be job, it could be like something that happens within the family, or anything that's, you know, like any sort of diversity that just present themselves you know, like towards you feel some type of way. And for me personally, you know, at the beginning it's all fun until you realize that, okay, this isn't the second or third time I've done that. I've done it multiple times and it's not making that person happy. And it's getting to the point where, okay, we're no longer in the honeymoon phase and we've reached that plateau phase.
But maybe, I think, sorry to cut you off, I had to cut you off because one of the biggest things that we didn't mention is the marriage counseling. Because the marriage counseling we did with the pastor, which was one of the best thing that we did.
You guys did that initially as soon as you got married?
No, we do before the wedding.
Okay.
Yeah, so she kind of like told us things to expect that's gonna happen. She kind of got us prepared. So when those things were happening, and we kind of like when going back to like remember what the pastor said. So we kind of like I didn't know what he's gonna expect. We kind of knew things that could happen. So a lot of the stuff like that she's saying that, you know, the honeymoon phase, the pastor mentioned all that, and she shared her experiences, even her marriage and stuff like that. So, and even till now, when something happens, it's like, babe, remember what the pastor said? This. We kind of have to work on this. Babe, remember what the pastor said? Communication is the key. We can go mad. You go to bed and mad and stuff like that. We have to talk about it and stuff like that. So a lot of the stuff that we learned 4 years ago and we still use until today. You know, I think that was one of the...
It comes in handy.
Yeah.
You don't realize, like for me, if I'm being honest, I think communication is a big thing for me.
Yeah.
And I because like I've mentioned before, I'm not that person that just, you know, like voice herself out or like outspoken. So a lot of times I keep things inside and it's not really helping. And I think that's one of the things that we face as a couple. It's a lot of challenges that came from there. Was part of it was communication, the lack of communication. And because I wouldn't voice myself when something bothers me, like the whole tower thing. I'm sure I didn't even say it on the first time he did it, or the second time, or the third. So it became a habit until it's like, you know what, I could no longer tolerate this. So I kind of like, you know, like explode. But it's the same way, you know, like we had to adjust and to go back to your questions, you know, like to keep things a little, if I may say, spicy, I guess. A lot of times, you know, like with things, you know, life, you know, the wave of life come and like slap you from left to right. And I think it's really important to pause for a second and just like block off any noise, because we're so focused on like, okay, we have to pay this bill, this thing is due, or we have to do this next week, oh my god, we have to fix this again. So a lot of time all these things come and then you forget to spend time together, you forget to like tell the person you love that person or whatever, and like you're so stressed out that you forget to leave. So I think one of the things that, and he knows me very well, he knows like when I'm super stressed, he would like either, you know what, babe, let's do this, let's do that, let's talk, or like vice versa. So it's really important now that we are parents, we don't before COVID we used to go out on dates and like, you know, like movies, go out to eat, go for a walk and things like that. And now that we have a little one, and we were, whenever we had the chance before COVID, we will like get someone to watch her for us, and we'll go and have our little moment, our little, you know, one-on-one date, just to, you know, like to, because it's important to keep dating.
It is.
But
And
COVID.
again, that's one of the things that the pastor mentioned.
Right.
You know what I mean? I never forget everything that the pastor said to get me prepared and ready for the wedding. I never forget. She even sometimes she acknowledged that, because she's like, babe, you never forget. I always bring it up because I had to prepare myself, because the negative comments that I was getting, bro, it's not gonna last, bro. I don't know why you're getting married. You know what I mean? And one of the things that I used to tell those people who came to me and be like, yo, I don't think you should get married. I used to tell them, you don't know the woman I have. You don't know her. You're just saying that. And those people didn't know how much of she changed my life when she came around. You know, how much she changed the way I think, the way I see things. They didn't see that. I just knew. I'll never look back. I made a decision and never look back, because I had a vision where I saw I am where I was going to be today, and everything happened, and we did everything right, everything that should be. Every plan that we planned it happened. Every goal that we put it down, that we wrote down, it happened. You know what I mean? So even until now, I feel like we can accomplish everything that we did because we just following the rules that we created, and just doing the things, everything together. And of course, God always have to be there, right? God always have to be in your marriage. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, when I look back, it's just like the pastor has a very big, important part on our marriage. Yeah.
I will second that. And it's not so much that, but I think it's like giving us like the strategy to, whenever we face adversity within our marriage, like
it's kind of like give us the blueprint. Here's the blueprint.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now, how you guys can use this blueprint, and then she gave us step by step. You know, some days we took notes, or you took notes and stuff like that. But me, it was just feeding into my mind.
He was sleeping.
Even though some of I was sleeping at that time, I was like, you know, working a lot and stuff like that. And the pastor said, no, I want you to stand up. I'll just stay there standing for the whole hour. But like, I was just feeding my mind. Everything is here until now.
No, dating it's a big part of it. Like keeping your marriage alive, you've got to not only like putting God in the center of it, but also like keep dating each other, because it's not every day that you're gonna be feeling like you want to see the person. Some day you're like, you want to have that little time to yourself. But a lot of the fact that you agreed to spend life together, and you took that vow, so you have to honor it. And what I found nowadays is that people are not honoring the vow that they took, and they're willing to quit. They're willing to throw the towel so fast,
because life happens
before they can actually experience and exploring things and see if things can work out. And they're just like, you know what, no, I'm done, I can't, this will not work, and things like that. And one of the things I told Jocelyn is like, we, you know, like for better, for worse, you know, for richer, for sickness and health, you know, like this is the vow that we took. And I'm not going anywhere if you're not going anywhere. Like we took the vow, and we're gonna do everything we can to make this work. And you know, like with God's help, of course, we are like firm believers of you know, like when it comes to our marriage, that we need God to be in the center of it, because if not, we know that it's gonna crumble down. So
okay, so the next part of the question is something that you two both mentioned. It's about balancing, right? So obviously, whenever two people decide to get married, they're basically deciding to compromise.
Yeah.
Right? Because whenever two people get married, they have to sort of balance each other, right? Mm-hmm. And by coming together as one, each individual needs to eliminate certain things about themselves. Yeah. Right? Because it's not about being an individual, it's about being a team. Because one thing that I learned was whenever two people get together, they're coming together for a bigger goal. But the bigger goal that's higher than themselves, right? So can you sort of like describe a couple of things that you needed to eliminate about yourselves in order to sort of balance each other out in your marriage?
I think for me, I needed, now going back to being an only child on my mom's side, I think I had some sort of selfishness, and I needed to get rid of that because it was hurting us.
Selfishness can be very broad. Can you like be more specific?
So in terms of, you know, thinking for myself, you know, like a lot of times
Keeping around.
certain situation that presented itself and it was out of my own selfishness. Like it could have resolved, but I decided to keep things to myself.
So you're saying sorry to interrupt, but in terms of like you being more independent.
So I think that's what it was. Even like when it came to, you know, like finances, at the beginning, I had to. I think it was more pride.
That's before we got married.
I think it was more pride because I lived with my dad, and when I had my first little job, I stopped depending on my dad. He was paying the rent and all that stuff, but everything else I took care of it. We're talking about like the internet, cable, my cell phone, my clothes and things like that. I started buying things for myself, so I stopped asking. And I think when I graduated from high school, you know, like took that program, I got a job right away. So for me, I started working and making good money. So I was like, you know what, Miss Independent. Now I come to like marriage, and then it's like, oh, I know from like before we already spoke about how we were gonna do things financially, but it didn't really, in my head, you know, I still have mine, he has his, bills are paid, we're working, you know, we're putting money towards saving and all that, everything is working, so let it be. But when it comes to a point where it's like, by the way, I need money for gas, for me that's a big thing, because I'm like, I never had to ask for that.
It was a big thing. It's not anymore. So
it's not anymore,
yeah,
but it was.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know, I never asked anybody for money. Like, yes, and he used to say, but I'm your husband. So that created problems because I'm not, you know, like it.
No, baby, that was before we got married.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
How can we before we got married? It was after, because now I'm like, if I needed gas, or even if it wasn't gas, but I needed something and I didn't have the fund for it, and I would ask. I had to swallow my pride.
You to ask me. Okay.
Yes, for me to ask you.
Yes, yeah.
It was a big thing for me because in my head I'm like, I wasn't used to asking people for things.
Yeah.
So I had to swallow my pride. But even then, when I ask it, it's like. But now it's no longer that, because you know what? I'm like, you know what? Like, we are one, so I shouldn't have to feel a certain way to like ask my husband if I need money or whatever.
It's funny how it took you a long time to overcome that, because I thought the whole time you were comfortable with that. Then I realized myself, and I seen that why you just asked me. You didn't have money for gas, and so what happened? Did you go and ask? You should have just asked me, or you should have just go, because we have like a joint account. You should just go to the joint account and take money from there. But it was something that, you know, of course, she was struggling with, you know.
So I had to eliminate that.
Yeah, and for me, and one of the things that I told her, like in the beginning, even before we got married, I said, yo, anything you need, let me know, because everything that I have, that's just one thing that one of the great things that my parents instilled in me. Anything that I have is yours. I always tell her that, you know what I mean? If my money, it's your money, you know, my shoes, it's your shoes. So I was just like making her more comfortable, because I'm just a very open person. So I want her to feel like, yo, if you are my girl, you can have everything that I have. Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting close to the end, so I have 2 more questions.
Yeah.
And so just keep your answers short and brief. Right, so in this day of social media, it basically presents a lot of options, a lot of opportunities for you to get into any type of relationship, whether quick, long-term, mid, whatever it is that you want, you can get it, right? So obviously being a couple in a marriage, whenever you're going through a hard time, people tend to look at other options, right? And it's very tempting for them to just try different things because of the thing that they're currently in is not working.
Yeah.
So what keeps you committed in today's time? Because you can easily go to social media to get whatever it is that you want.
What keeps me committed? Honestly, I don't know. It's more of the fact that I took a vow and said yes, I want to spend my life with this person. I don't look elsewhere. There is a pressure of with social media, especially when you're not in good terms with your spouse. You tend to go, because just to relieve your mind from the problem at home and things like that, you tend to focus somewhere else. But one of the things that I found helping me, especially when we're going through a tough time, or if we've had an argument and we're not talking to each other and things like that, oftentimes he probably noticed it too. I would read my Bible. And because I feel like, yes, I can go on social media, but mentally it's not good for me, because now you're looking at, or you're scrolling through social media, you're seeing happy couple, they're doing things together, they're having fun and all that, but at home, it's you have your husband at home and you're not even at peace with him and things like that. So most of the times I go and read, and I purchased a book recently, a couple months ago actually, with a friend. I think it was last year I purchased that book, and it was The Power of a Praying Wife, and it's focused mostly, it's for husbands. All the chapters in the books, all the topics, the chapters are it's toward husbands and stuff like that, and what you need to do as a wife to help your husband, to pray for your husband and things like that. So that's what I think helped me, and just keeping in mind that what got me to that position, why did I fall in love with him in the first place? Because I always find myself asking, why did I fall in love with him, especially when we're going through a hard time. So I go back and reminding myself of why I fell in love with him, because that way if I can remember why, then whatever we're going through right now, I know it's just temporary. We just need to work it out, and the grass is not greener on the other side.
That's great, man. You pretty much said it all. But I can just short and briefly, it's just everything we already went through, the accomplishments and the adversity that we overcome together. When you look back, it really explains a lot. Do you really want to go there with somebody else, starting back to zero, getting to know somebody else? You know what I mean? So that's why when you're making that decision, you really have to be 100%. There's no 50-50. You really have to be sure. Yes, I really want to go and to this new challenge. You know what I mean? You really have to be 100% sure. There's no 98. There's no 95. There's no 50-50. This has to be 100. And you have to make sure the same person and your partner, of course, have to be on the same page as you are.
Alright, so now this question sort of sticks to social media. You stated earlier about your fear of criticism. Right, obviously it was easy for you to deal with that fear back in the past where social media wasn't as prevalent in everyone's life. But now today a lot of kids deal with trying to stay away or trying to keep themselves out of social media. Right, so and obviously with the use of social media being in such a high today, a lot of kids will experience a lot of mental disorders or mental illnesses. So what are some of your coping strategies for kids dealing with social media?
Just from my experience and what I do, whenever I feel overwhelmed or stressed, I will log off social media for a bit. It could be 2-3 days or sometimes 2 weeks. It all depends. I think the longest I've done was a month off social media. and a lot of time it's like it contributes with what you feed your mind. It all depends on what your focus is on. If you're only looking at things that you're wishing that you had, then obviously it's just a matter of time before it clashes. Like, it will not take too long for you to come to a point where you start.
You must watch my video on Instagram. My social media break video on Instagram. I think that's pretty much everything that I mentioned in the video. She's saying, she's a big fan.
A little bit what you mentioned on the video.
It's kind of everything that she's saying right now.
Okay.
So she's a big fan. She pretty much, how I say, explaining the video to you.
Yeah, so I think like one of the things that for sure people need to do is just log off social media. And what you see out there, it's not real. It's not really what it is.
It's not real.
What I found is that there are days where, like I could put up a show and go on social media and show things that are not true. I could do that, but I choose not to do it because it's like you're seeing an image of someone, of whether it's traveling, whether it's something that they're doing that you're wishing that you were doing, whether it's family. It could really take a mental toll on your mental state, on your mental mind. So if you're not being careful, you will easily go down the rabbit hole, contemplating like, why am I feeling this way? Why is so and so is enjoying life and things like that, and I'm not able to do that. But you need to identify the real reason behind why you're feeling that way in the first place. Like one thing I told Jelson a couple weeks ago or so, he told me that there was a specific person that when, like, if he feels a certain way about someone, he will like unfollow the person. And I remember I told him, I said, well, I think yes, it's good to do, but you need to also identify, why is this person a threat? Why do I feel like this person a threat? Maybe it's not so much the person that's the problem, but it's you that's the problem. The problem is within you. You need to identify what the problem is before you can actually take the action and work on yourself. If you need to log off, then you log off completely and go and clear your mind and then work on yourself.
All right. So earlier on, when you first started introducing yourself, you stated that you're a mother. You have a kid. Can you sort of describe your decision in terms of like having kids in your marriage? How did that go?
So I'll go first. So after the marriage, she loves kids, right? So she really loves kids, and it's something that we always spoke about. We talked about it before before I even proposed, And I love kids too. I love kids, but I wanted to have kids at the right time. Meaning, like, we get married, we get our own place and stuff like that, and then I felt like it was just like So, and it wasn't hard for her. She's someone that understands. If you have the reasons for it, if you have your why, she'll understand. And that's why. And it was just so easy for me. Everything that I mentioned to her, everything that I kind of like have plans. You think this is a good idea? I'll come to her and be like, this is a good idea. And everything that she wants, I kind of have to kind of like make her understand. No, I don't want it now, but I'll give her the answer. I'm not gonna be like, no, I don't want it. Not saying why I don't want it. So I kind of like, I'll tell her that no, it's not the right time. This is when it's gonna be the right time. You know what I mean? So going back to your question, I told her, look, I don't want to have kids just now. When I proposed, I want to have kids after we buy a house. We buy a house, we have our own place, we're comfortable. Then we go ahead and start, doing the things that we have in plan. And that's what we did,
Building a family.
Yeah, building a family. So that's what we did, So I proposed, and then after I proposed, everything that we did was planning. We're planning, and we wrote those goals down, and we accomplished. We planned like, okay, let's save for a wedding. Let's plan for the wedding. We did the wedding. after the wedding, okay, let's stay in an apartment. Let's save money to buy a house. We did that. We bought a house, and then after the house, and funny story, the day we went to go see the house that we're living in now today is the day that I found out that she was pregnant. The day that she told me that she was pregnant. You know what I mean? And it was just so like, God is so good, because everything that you really write down, everything that you want in life, if you follow the ways, the thing that should go, if you follow the plan and you stick to your plan, you stick to that vision and have faith, things will come to reality. You know what I mean? And that's how we did. That's why, like, when I say everything that we accomplished, we did it, and I feel like everything that we have in plans, it will come to tuition, because the things that we accomplished so far, you know what I mean, and we doing with of course, you know, having faith in God, always putting God first, and we don't know any other way. So I really tell you that everything that, of course, you're gonna face adversity. Of course, things not gonna go the way you plan, you know what I mean? But if you stick to your vision and just keep that positive mindset and keep moving forward every day and uplift each other every day, you know what I mean? So, and just follow the blueprint that was put up to us, you know, that the pastor showed us, and then always make sure to keep God present in your marriage, and just keep growing.
I think one of the things that, because at first, yes, we said we weren't gonna have kids right away. But I think like somehow along the way we were like, oh, we should have kids right away. Like, what? Let's just do it. And then when we went for the counseling,
like, we had a good amount of like the saving to buy the house. Right?
Well, no, that's when it was before the wedding, and then the pastor said, you know, I advise young couples to at least take a year.
Enjoy the marriage.
Enjoy your marriage and things like that before you decide to have kids. Because, and then she was giving us, you know, like she said, you know, not that, you know, things will get hard, but, you know, like you still want to get to know each other and like date and have fun, you know, as a young married couple and things like that. So when that year passed, we had already implemented that, you know, on paper, we're gonna buy a house, and then we're gonna start having, you know, we're gonna start building a family. So that's what we wrote down on paper and things like that. But then that's the way we planned. That's not the way it came out to be. I mean, God always has a different plan than what we ourselves put down. You know, what we envision. He has a bigger plan for us. So for me, I think personally, when we decided that we were gonna buy a house, because before we got married, we said we were gonna rent for just 1 year. We're not gonna spend more than 2 years renting. Yeah. We want to buy a house after 2 years, and it happened just under 2 years. Yeah. And that's exactly around the same time we found out we were pregnant. So we were just as shocked. Oh wow! Like, look at how God blessed us with a house and with a baby at the same time when we didn't even plan it that way. So I think that's how it sort of
came together. Okay, so another question. So aside from finances, children are I wouldn't say the top, but are part of the reason why a lot of marriages tend to break apart. Yeah. Because they basically change the whole dynamic of things. Because as soon as you're getting married, and as soon as you're married and you sort of get used to each other, you sort of have a routine, you sort of have something established. So everything is good until another person comes into the picture where basically just changes the dynamic and just changes everything. So the particular things that you guys used to do can no longer do, right? Because there's another person in your life that you have to take care of. So it basically just changes everything, in which both parents both individuals are so busied, or so how should I say, they're doing many different things, like they just can't do the things that they used to do. So how have you managed with the new addition to your family, staying together, balancing everything out, and keeping the dynamic that you once had?
Like in terms of finances?
No, in terms of like the kids.
Kids.
I think at the beginning it was not easy. If anything, I think on my part, that's where most of it was coming from, where I was neglecting him because I'm like have a new baby and I'm so focused on my baby, I forget that I have a husband, and I forget that he's the father, and that I needed to trust him with the baby as well. So for me, I think it really took a toll on our relationship, like having the baby, bringing the baby home, because I was so clinging to my baby. I didn't want anybody else. Anyone else can hold the baby, but except for him. Because for me, it was just more like, no, like I am the mother, and I know what to do if the baby's crying. I know what to do. I know how to hold the baby properly. I know exactly what to do. And he was having such a hard time, and we kept clashing. We kept like bumping fists because every single day he would ask, like, why are you this way? Why are you that way? Why you look like this? You look this way. Like, why are you thinking this way? Why you look so sad? But for me, just like in my head, I'm processing the whole thing. Like, I just gave birth to a whole new, human being, and I'm the mother. I know better than anyone else. So I'm gonna do whatever in my power to take care for that little one. But in the meantime, I'm neglecting him. And if I go back to like my counselor with the pastor, our counselor, she mentioned that. She said one of the things is people do when they have a new baby, they forget about their spouse, they forget about their husband, and they focus on the baby, and which I did. I completely forgot about his existence. And it went like that for a couple months.
Yeah.
It went like that for a few, I would say at least three months or so. Yeah. It went like that where we were just roommates in the house. Yeah. Like he would just go to work, how's the baby's fine, and
of course, there's always people in the house and stuff like
exactly.
that.
Exactly. And I'm sure people sort of felt, there was some sort of distance between us, and in terms of, like we weren't as happy, I would say, like that happy couple who just had a baby. We weren't like that. And I think that's why I'm saying like most of it was me, because at that time
I think we were like that, like maybe the first week.
It was more than that. Yeah. Yes, because I had postpartum depression. So for me, I put all these in I'm like, well, he should be coming home and do this, because you now going back, if we talk about, like stuff that you see online or whatever, as a new mother, you see things, this woman just gave birth, the husband is doing so much to help. So in my head, I think what I had, like the perspective that I had,
and the other thing too, baby, the fact that I was so busy, right?
Yes, and you were so busy. Yeah. He will leave home early and come home late. So for me, it's like I'm by myself with a newborn baby. So by the time he come home, again, like you look and you see, oh, so-and-so had a baby. Her husband is helping so much. Meanwhile, my husband is working all day, and when he comes home, it's late. He wants to shower and go to bed. So a lot of things got built up, and it just kept on pushing me away from him. That's what made it worse, yeah. So it made it worse and worse, but it wasn't the baby. The baby was not at fault. But I think we both failed at realizing what the issue was, and not really putting it on the table and say, listen, let's talk this out. Something isn't working here. And we drag it for so long.
I think because we didn't really, I think for me, I kind of like just thought that you were just going through a phase, and I had to be strong and do whatever I could. At the time, I didn't really, at first it was bothering me, then I told myself, no, you know what, you have to be strong. If this is a new phase, that you have to learn how to be a father. Everything that she say, even if she's not in a good mood, just do it. And I was doing that. I knew that eventually we're gonna find the answers why this is happening. But I just had to be strong. And in our relationship, whenever things are happening, I know myself. I have to be stronger than her. You know what I mean? I always have to be stronger. Like, it could be anything. I can't show her no weakness, because when I show her weakness, she won't be able to kind of lift herself up. So So I have to be stronger than her in every situation until now.
And I think that's what helped us through that moment, because he realized, okay, something is really, really wrong. And he was like, we need to talk. We need to sit. And we sat down, we talked, and I voiced myself. But one of the things is that I'm not really big on communication. But I wasn't really big on communication. So a lot of time, like I could have spoken and said, this is what's wrong. This is what I think is wrong and things like that. I could have said, I'm not happy and things like that because this. Maybe you work too much. I don't see you enough. I'm here with my, by myself with the baby all day and things like that. So this could have been avoided, but because we tracked it for so long, it got to a point where we were both like, okay, what is it gonna be? What's the solution? Are you checked out? Am I checked out? Like, what's happening? Like, something is wrong here and we need to fix it. So once we decided to like have a conversation and realize that,
find out pieces.
Okay, this is the problem, then I'm not gonna work anymore. My second job. And that was the part, I think from there we started to
mend the fences. Right, so to conclude the podcast, we normally end it with a quote, but obviously I'm the one heading the podcast today. I don't have a quote, so I will focus towards your marriage. Obviously being together for 4 years is an accomplishment. So in few words, can you describe what marriage is to people?
I think marriage is not 50-50. Marriage is more than that. You can't just expect that I'm giving my 50% and you expect the person to, it's enough, and you expect the person to come along and give his 50. And you're waiting for him to give his 50 before you can do anything else. You're just gonna get frustrated. It's all about compromising. It's all about meeting. You know what? Like you're the helper as the wife. You're the helper. The guy is the husband is the head of the home. So, am I helping him? Am I helping him reach? What we came together to do, like build. Whether it's like generational wealth, whether it is like building whatever that we came together, whatever the goal was. Am I helping him, or I'm more like a side? I'm more on the side watching him do it on his own and like just like waiting for him to sleep off so I can be like, oh yeah, you didn't do this, you didn't do your part, that's why that happened. So I see it that way. I don't see, based on my experiences, I don't see that it's 50-50. I think it's more than that. It takes effort. You have to constantly work on it and to constantly put in the effort. And it goes both ways. Like there's days where I'm like down, all the way down, and he's the one that comes and put all the load on himself, and like, and he's dragging me along with him. We had so many moments like that, and there are moments where like he's there and I'm up here, so I'm like, let's go. If I had that mentality of like he's supposed to be here, I'm supposed to be here, so when he goes a bit lower, I'm expecting him to get back to his level so we can go. It'll never happen. So I think that's what I think of marriage.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then for me, I think I made a post like that on Instagram. I said, behind every great woman, every great man, there's a great woman. There's a great woman, there's a greater woman, because when people look at me, like especially people who know me before, right? When people look at me, they don't see the same Jelson that they used to know before. I'm a completely different person. I'm still the same guy, just like with more wisdom and more knowledge, just more aware of myself, just with more self-awareness. And all that comes with the woman who I am with, right? Comes with the qualities that my wife have. I wouldn't be the man that I am today without her, and I give her all, like, most of the credits. The man that I became today is with a lot of her help. You know what I mean? Like I said, when I met her, the way I used to see things, the way I view things, it changed because of the qualities that she had. You know, she was so ahead of herself, and I just knew I could really become the person that I was striving to be, the person that I always wished to be. You know what I mean? So you can be great, or you can keep growing in life, especially when you have a partner, if your partner's not pushing you. You know what I mean? So I say I wouldn't be the man that I am today without her. You know what I mean? So a lot of people that when they see me and they see the person that I am today, and they give me those compliments, and I tell them that, you know, my wife, she's a major key of the accomplish that I have, or that I have in my life right now. You know what I mean? So, and like you said, it's like, it's when you get married, it's not about you anymore. It's like literally you and your wife. It's like literally just one. Because every decision that I'm about to make, even like when it comes to like a business, I still kind of have to make sure, I have to know that it makes sense, because I'm not by myself. It's literally, you know, when you're in a marriage, it's like, it's literally one. It's one, you know. So in the beginning, that's one thing that you kind of like struggle. You can't just go ahead and make decisions. Like I remember when we moved into an apartment, you know, it was a 2-bedroom apartment. I bought a couch. I was paying for a couch, right? I just thought it would be cool in the other room, because the other room, I was like, it would be like a man kind of thing, you know, when like boys come through, you know, so my wife can have her space and stuff like that. We stay in our room, play our games, watch our movie, stuff like that. So I was kind of like building like a man cave kind of thing, right? But I didn't let her know, so I made a decision without her know, right? Even though we're okay financially and stuff like that, but it's still, she's part of you now. You know what I mean? So that was one of the things that I had to learn. It comes with time, it comes with experiences and stuff like that. But yeah, marriage is not about you. It's literally you and your partner together.
Yep. And with that, you can wrap it up.
So stay tuned with another episode. Thank you for listening, guys, and see you next episode. Peace.